There has always been a prophecy on the continent of heroes. The day the legendary hero draws the holy sword will mark the end of the demon race's reign. But this year was the 15th year of Demon Queen Elizabeth's rule, and the legendary hero had yet to appear. On the contrary, under the Demon Queen's absolute dominion, discrimination between the races had vanished. Everyone could coexist as equals, and the continent entered an unprecedented era of prosperity. Fearing the loss of this peace, the common folk had even established an anti-hero alliance. However, none of this was what Elizabeth wanted. She had painstakingly deciphered ancient magical texts to create a world-ending spell, all in anticipation of the hero's challenge. Yet to this day, she didn't even know the hero's name, making the suffering she had endured feel like a joke. She went directly to the holy sword, and under the horrified gazes of everyone present, forcefully drew the Alpha Holy Sword, which belonged to the hero. The immense backlash of power forced the onlookers to erect a barrier to defend themselves. Soon, a pillar of energy shot through the castle and into the heavens. A moment later, the energy dissipated, revealing Elizabeth holding the holy sword. She sneered to herself, "Who is it that prophesied only the legendary hero could draw it?" But as soon as the words left her mouth, an image from hundreds of thousands of kilometers away suddenly appeared in her mind. On a desolate hill, there stood a humble tile-roofed house. Elizabeth suddenly understood. The hero had been hiding there all along. A red light enveloped her body, and she waved her hand to summon a teleportation array. Meanwhile, the legendary hero was engrossed in his daily farming, unwilling to leave the novice village. This was because, in his previous life, he was an ordinary office worker. One day, while commuting home on the subway, he and the handle he was holding were suddenly transported to this world of sword and magic. Under the guidance of a novice system, Ling slowly learned the basic survival skills of this world. The system urged him to leave the novice village, defeat the great demon queen, and become the legendary hero. But the current Leping just wanted to live a peaceful life. The village was protected by a special time barrier that completely concealed it and made a single day feel much longer than 24 hours. Although Ling was still clueless about sword and magic, for someone who had no interest in adventuring, building his ideal pastoral home was his lifelong dream. The system was so furious it crashed on the spot, leaving only a final message. "Hope you get killed by the Demon Queen soon before vanishing forever." One day while he was farming, he saw the dark clouds in the sky twist and gathered together. "Is it going to rain all of a sudden? My clothes and dried fish are still outside." He immediately rushed back to his courtyard. In reality, it was the Demon Queen Elizabeth teleporting to his location. She watched this so-called hero rush back to collect his laundry and felt a wave of speechlessness. Just then, an electronic pet dog named Wong Kai started barking. Ling initially thought it was just fooling around, but then he noticed its behavior was unusually agitated. Ling subconsciously glanced at the sky and saw a dark figure hovering in midair. "Wong Kai, what's that thing in the sky?" Elizabeth heard him loud and clear. "How dull. And you dare call me your queen?" "A thing," Ling quickly explained. No, I'm sorry. I couldn't see clearly just now." Elizabeth couldn't be bothered with his nonsense and decided to verify his identity first. A golden stream of light shot down from the sky towards Ling. Before he could even understand what was happening, the light circled around him and landed automatically in his palm, as if guided by some strange impulse. Ling gripped the holy sword and swung it, the blade cutting through the air and revealing the powerful aura of the hero. But when Elizabeth returned the holy sword to Ling, she discovered his magical sensitivity was so low, he was worse than an ordinary soldier. Is he hiding his true strength? Ling was already overwhelmed. And then he noticed the electronic pet dog at his feet was growling. "Why is the Demon Queen here?" "Shut up, you stupid dog. Don't provoke her." Suddenly, a fierce wind howled in the sky. Elizabeth summoned 3 massive magic circles, and from their centers, gigantic meteorites began to emerge. In that instant, Leping finally understood that what the system had said was true. The meeting of the hero and the Demon Queen was inevitable, even if he never left the novice village. Thinking this, he dropped the Alpha Holy Sword and walked, trembling, back into his house. Leping was just a rookie, and the final boss had already come knocking. He had no choice but to accept his fate. "I've had a happy time here. I can die with no regrets. Let me in, and this home returned to nothingness together." However, Leping's unusual actions led Elizabeth to imagine a completely different scenario. That parting smile seemed to say to her, "Bring it on." The more Elizabeth thought about it, the angrier she became. Feeling she was being looked down upon by the hero, she immediately commanded the 3 massive meteorites to smash into the small house. At that critical moment, Wang Kai on the ground suddenly activated. It ran complex code from its database. Its outer shell opened up, revealing all sorts of missile launchers and cannons. Before the 3 meteorites could hit, it fired missiles that blew them into countless fragments. Elizabeth was surprised. So it's an intelligent, highly magical tool. No wonder the legendary hero is so arrogant. But before me, everything is inferior. She quickly cast her world-ending spell, gathering tens of thousands of miles of dark clouds. A sphere of purple light slowly descended from within. I have no more interest in testing you. Let's end this here. At that moment, Wang Kai once again ran its complex code and spat out a black energy crystal from its mouth, though only the size of a walnut. The crystal contained terrifying power. A stream of black light shot out, looking insignificant in front of the massive world-ending sphere. Elizabeth calmly tilted her head, dodging the black beam. It's useless. Just disappear along with this continent. But as soon as she finished speaking, the crystal triggered a quantum black hole within the world-ending spell. The energy that could have destroyed the world vanished in an instant. Elizabeth looked on in disbelief. My world-ending spell was broken. What did that hero do inside the house? What she didn't know was that Ling had already accepted his fate and was lying on his bed waiting to die. Elizabeth decided to descend to the ground and get a good look at this highly magical tool. But Wang Kai couldn't speak, only barking woof, woof, woof incessantly. Elizabeth couldn't help but laugh at herself to think I would be looked down upon by a magical tool. But don't get too cocky. So far, I've used less than 30% of my power. You insolent thing. Let me show you what true terror is. With that, Elizabeth activated her demon god form, entering her strongest demon god form and battling it to the death for a full hour. At that moment, Ling, who had been waiting to die in his house, happened to wake up. He looked around and found everything at home was normal, and it seemed quiet outside. Is that demon queen still waiting for me out there? She's that crazy? The courtyard was filled with thick smoke, as if a great battle had just taken place. The demon queen was covered in wounds, clutching the now-wrecked electronic pet dog and tossing it to the ground like trash. My apologies. I've completely destroyed that magical tool you were so proud of. Ling's voice trembled slightly. It's okay. Can't we just sit down and talk things out? Elizabeth's consciousness began to blur. Damn it. To make me fight to my limit. Is this the ending the prophecy spoke of? Finally, Elizabeth's body lost its balance and collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Li Ping rushed forward to help her up. Just as he was about to check her injuries, he saw the demonic horns on her head and the clothes on her body vanish simultaneously, leaving only a naked body before his eyes. At that moment, Li Ping's blood pressure skyrocketed and a nosebleed shot out 2.5 meters. Soon night fell. When Elizabeth woke up, she was surprised to find her hands bound together by Ling. He didn't kill me while I was unconscious. Instead, he imprisoned me. Is he trying to show off his power to the world? Elizabeth tried to use her magic to break free, but she couldn't. She guessed it was another legendary grade magical tool she had never seen before. What other terrifying power is that guy hiding? Elizabeth looked around the room and saw many strange objects. I was too careless. It seems this hero is far more sinister than I imagined. While Elizabeth's mind was racing, Ling walked in with a tray of food. He wanted to use this opportunity to suck up to the demon queen and save his own life. I think there must be some misunderstanding between us. I'll untie you right now and we can have a proper chat. But Elizabeth interpreted his words as, you've misunderstood from the very beginning. You thought you were strong enough to challenge me. The hero, you're gravely mistaken. If you want to live, you'll have to satisfy my every demand. Elizabeth swallowed hard, thinking, this pervert is clearly threatening me. Then Ling untied Elizabeth's hands. I'm untying you to prove I mean no harm. We agreed. We'll talk properly. Okay. Elizabeth stubbornly turned her head away, feeling her current situation was very disadvantageous. I'll endure it for now and come back for revenge later. In truth, the reason Li Ping didn't kill the demon queen while she was unconscious was that he had never killed anyone before. And he figured a demon queen would naturally have a resurrection skill to resolve the conflict between a hero and a demon queen. Fighting wasn't the only way. If he could show he was no threat to her and befriend her, he could continue to live his reclusive life. As he thought this, a silly grin appeared on his face. However, Elizabeth saw this as the hero mocking her. Just then, Li Ping picked up the broken electronic pet dog. Wang Kai, How did you get so wrecked? Elizabeth asked tentatively. Is this thing your most powerful magical tool? Lang explained that Wonkai was something he had developed in the last 2 years, but it was actually just a small toy he made out of boredom. However, Elizabeth took his words to heart. This time, it's your turn to be careless. After untying me, I can secretly use abyss magic to recover quickly without the protection of your strongest magical tool. You're like a man who's lost his right arm. The scales of power have tipped in my favor. Now is the perfect time for me to eliminate you, the legendary hero. Little did she know, he then pushed open a cabinet, revealing a pile of spare parts. The Demon Queen's rage was doused as if by a bucket of cold water. As long as the memory card wasn't damaged, it could be inserted into a spare body to restore its functions. Ling explained that Wonkai was sometimes naughty, so he only kept one active at home for companionship. However, this loving scene appeared very different in Elizabeth's mind. After imagining a sinister scenario, Elizabeth sank powerlessly onto the bed. It was then that she noticed a fragrant aroma in the room. Lang explained, I saw you had fainted, so I made you something to eat to warm you up. On the table was a simple bowl of meat congee and a plate of ordinary dumplings. The Demon Queen declared that only the weak needed to eat. She had reached a transcendent state and had no need for such things. But despite her words, her throat made an audible gulp, and her stomach followed with a growl. It turned out that even a Demon Queen couldn't resist delicious food. Ling explained that the ingredients were all grown by him, completely natural, and he hoped she would try them. The Demon Queen was intrigued by these strange foods and casually picked up a dumpling to eat. At first, she ate slowly and expressionlessly, but her pace quickened until the entire plate of dumplings was gone. Elizabeth felt the meat juices explode in her mouth like fireworks, containing a high concentration of magical energy. She was reluctant to even swallow the last bite. However, when Elizabeth swallowed the last of the meat juice, something strange happened. Her body erupted with excitement like a volcano. She couldn't help but let out a few delicate cries, her whole body growing hot and trembling. Her hands tore her clothes and her legs twisted together. She demanded to know what Lang had put in the food. Lang explained that he had added a little chili pepper, not realizing the Demon Queen couldn't handle spicy food. Elizabeth's mind raced again. So this evil hero imprisoned me just to use me for his research experiments. Just then, Leping remembered he also had a bowl of preserved egg and lean pork congee, which would surely cool her down. Elizabeth thought, this guy feeds me poison and then gives me the antidote. He's clearly toying with me. But the strange sensation was too uncomfortable. So Elizabeth steeled herself and tried a spoonful. As soon as she ate it, the hot, restless feeling vanished, and her body felt as if it were floating on cool, calm water, ruling the world. Demon queens and heroes. All the troubles of the world seemed to have nothing to do with her. Soon Elizabeth's power level broke through, reaching the rank of a 3-star demon queen. She had never imagined that she could advance her strength through food. She began to reevaluate the hero before her. Stop pretending. What do you really want? But Leping said, actually, I just want us to work together and see if a demon queen and a hero can coexist. However, in Elizabeth's ears, his words became, in this world, only you are worthy of being my research subject. I will help you become stronger, and then you will defeat me. At this, Lang weakly asked, is that okay? I'll continue to make you delicious food to serve you. But these words twisted again in Elizabeth's mind. If you want to get stronger, I can help you. I'm looking forward to seeing if you can really defeat me. Elizabeth sighed in resignation. Hearing her sigh, Lang nearly fell apart, thinking the Demon Queen was still going to kill him. Elizabeth climbed onto the bed and looked down at Lang. Listen to me. I can agree to your terms, but make it clear that I'm not doing this because I fear you, but because I seek the pinnacle of power. Lang was speechless, thinking, fear me for what? But since she was the Demon Queen, whatever she said went. Elizabeth continued fiercely. Don't think that just because I'm living here, I'll bow down to you. My dignity will never be compromised. I would sacrifice everything to destroy you. Ling nodded. Understood. Then let's try to get along, Elizabeth commanded. What other delicious food do you have? I want it all. Unexpectedly, the Demon Queen and the hero could coexist, and they even lived together for 1.5 years. The once elegant Elizabeth had now turned into a lazy couch potato who loved eating potato chips. Every day, she either watched heart-wrenching romance dramas or ate the delicious dishes the hero Leping prepared for her. She was now so lazy that she even used magic to sprout a small pair of wings to fly to the dinner table. What kind of poison are these potato chips you're feeding me? The more I eat, the lazier I become. Looping had to explain, Potato chips are high in calories. Eating too many leads to fat accumulation, which naturally makes a person lazy. Hearing this, Elizabeth finally noticed her own flap. She snapped her fingers and used abyss magic to envelop her body. In an instant, her bloated figure returned to its former curvy state. Sorry to disappoint you. I've converted all the accumulated fat into magical power. Ling was dumbfounded. He never knew magic could be used that way. Elizabeth chuckled. Another one of your schemes foiled by me. Ling didn't want to argue. You're right about everything. Let's eat. Although Elizabeth always claimed Leping was poisoning her, she would instantly forget all about it whenever she saw delicious food, ignoring any supposed schemes or conspiracies and devouring it all. Ling would grumble from the side. If it's not enough, I'll just make more. It's fine if you eat a lot, but his casual words were once again misinterpreted by Elizabeth. You're still too weak. I'll fatten you up before slaughtering you. Every time she imagined such a scene, Elizabeth would fly into a rage. I've broken through more than 10 times this year. It's time for a final battle. But then, Leping would take a pudding out of the refrigerator. In that moment, Elizabeth's eyes would clear, and all thoughts of final battles and world domination would vanish. Ling found that the Demon Queen wasn't so hard to handle after all. As long as the food was good, she could be calmed down. However, ever since the Demon Queen had forcefully broken into the novice village and destroyed its protective barrier, the flow of time here gradually synchronized with the outside world. Time synchronization wasn't a big deal, but what was worse was that without the barrier's protection, the novice village lost its hidden status and was completely exposed to the wilderness. And the magical beasts that roamed nearby seemed to be anything but simple. Lang guessed it was because of the Demon Queen's presence that those beasts didn't dare approach his courtyard. Meanwhile, on a nearby plain, a middle-aged man was fleeing with his daughter, pursued by 3 humanoid monsters wearing strange masks. Their claws tore through the space in the air, creating sharp blades that flew towards the fleeing pair. Soon the blades split and plunged into the ground, forming a cage of claws. Blocked, the middle-aged man drew his great sword. Yilfu, wait here. I'll hold them off. You keep running toward the town, and you'll be safe. Yilfu shook her head. How can I leave you and escape alone, Dad? The middle-aged man's eyes were firm. I promised your mother I would protect you. Just then, a humanoid monster levitated in the air, condensing a massive ball of ghostly fire in its hand. The middle-aged man knew he couldn't wait any longer. He had to use his strongest move. He swung his great sword, sending blades of energy upwards to collide with the ghostly fire. Before it could fully form, he sliced the monster in half along with the fire. This was a monster from the Dark Guild. Even when one was cut in two, it could still become nourishment for another, absorbed into its body. After absorption, their power would increase, and another head would grow on their body. Yilfu didn't want to abandon her father and immediately summoned her elven longbow to fight back. Arrows formed from the natural power of the elf shot swiftly towards the monster. Unfortunately, the level gap was too large. She couldn't even break its defense. The middle-aged man didn't know how long he could hold on and only hoped his daughter, Yilfu, would be decisive, but it was already too late. The monsters launched another attack, their limbs stomping the ground with explosive speed, and delivered a powerful punch to the middle-aged man. He flew tens of meters, only stopping after shattering a rock. He was now too weak to fight and could only hope his daughter would seize the chance to escape. But then one monster suddenly merged into the others. Their bodies dissolved like slime and reassembled, finally forming a 20-meter-tall, 3-headed humanoid monster. Yilifa pleaded, I'll go back with you. Please just let my father go. Unfortunately, the monster had already lost its sanity. Just as Yilfu was filled with despair, an object 100 times larger than the monster suddenly fell from the sky. The surrounding mountains trembled as the 20-meter-tall monster was crushed on the spot. Yilfu was stunned by the sight. It was a mammoth lord as large as a mountain. The 20 meters was smaller than its toe. In fact, on the mammoth lord's head was a mansion where a 1,000-year-old toad sage lived. And on the toad sage's head was a doghouse. The danger has been eliminated. What should we do with these 2 harmless humans? Ribbit bit. Wonkai responded, Do not harm harmless humans. I will take them back to my master for him to deal with. The scene changed. Yulfa finally woke up after what felt like a long time. She found herself in a strange place. She remembered her father had suffered severe internal injuries and would die if not treated promptly. But when she opened the door, the first thing she saw was her father flexing his muscles. Looping clapped, Uncle, it must have taken you a lot of time to get that muscular. The man said that for a warrior, physical fitness was the most basic requirement. Lu Ping was excited. So this is the warrior class in another world. It's amazing seeing its master happy. Wang Kai also circled excitedly at his feet, but the nearby Elizabeth was annoyed. She caped Wang Kai away and questioned it. "Who told you, you stupid dog, to bring outsiders back here?" Wang Kai whimpered pitifully. What could it do when it couldn't beat the demon queen? On the other side, Lei Ping poked the man's muscles. "Wow, so firm," the man flexed again. "Since you like it, Mr. Lei Ping, I won't hold back." With that, he activated his burning battle spirit, his clothes bursting as he showed off his favorite muscles for his savior. Unfortunately, this awkward scene was witnessed by his daughter Yilfu. The three of them stared at each other, and the air suddenly fell silent. The man was only trying so hard to please his savior. Lang wanted to go and explain to Yilfu, but was blocked by the jealous Elizabeth. "Now that you're awake, get out. I'm warning you," Elizabeth said, pushing forward with her chest as if declaring her sovereignty to Yilfu. "I was here first," but Ling felt that since guests had arrived, they should be treated with courtesy. He invited the two of them into the house and served them roasted barley tea he had made himself. Yilof's eyes were a bit hazy. "Is this the magical potion you mentioned that heals you instantly after drinking it?" Ling thought she was exaggerating. "I just gave your father some cool well water earlier." The nearby Elizabeth sulked. "Why did this guy bring another girl here? Am I not enough for you?" Just then, the middle-aged man spoke up about what happened that day. "Although I was barely conscious, I was still aware. A strange dog brought us to the farmland. And then Mr. Leping gave me a sip of water. That sip saved me from the brink of death. If it weren't for Mr. Leping, I'm afraid I would never have seen you again, my daughter." Yulfu exclaimed that the tea must be precious. "Can we really drink this?" Ling felt they were being too modest and told them not to be so polite. Hearing Lu Ping's words, the father and daughter finally drank the barley tea without hesitation. As soon as they finished, they felt a surge of magical power overflowing from within, making them feel as if they were lying in a wheat field looking out at the world, even seeing aliens flying by in saucers in outer space. Soon, both of their magic levels broke through, and Yilifu's mother's elven bloodline was even awakened, causing her ears to grow longer. The two of them sighed deeply, amazed that a simple cup of tea could lead to a breakthrough. Lang thought his hospitality was lacking and wanted to pour them another cup of barley tea, but the man was already overwhelmed with gratitude and refused such a precious gift. In truth, Lang also wanted to treat them to drinks and snacks, but Elizabeth had monopolized them all. He could only sigh an apology, completely unaware that the two had been shaken by a single cup of tea. Lang asked about what had happened. "Uncle Boss, why were you attacked?" Uncle Boss replied, "As you can see, Mr. Leping, it's because of the elven bloodline within Yilfu." Yilfu added, "My mother was the holy maiden of the elven race. She fell in love with my father and gave birth to me, but the elves forbid marriage with other races." Leping understood. "So it was the elves who were trying to capture you." Elizabeth questioned this nonsense. "The ban on interracial marriage was abolished after the Demon Queen united the world." Uncle Boss continued, "It's a long story. Ever since Yilof's mother was forced to return to the Elven Holy Land, I've been living in seclusion with Yilifu." Lang thought it was like Romeo and Juliet in another world. "I get it. And then the elves found you and sent people to capture you." Uncle Boss shook his head because of my wife's sacrifice and returning to the elves. "They have forgiven us. The ones hunting us now are apostles from the Dark Guild in the Demon Domain." Hearing the words Demon Domain, Lang subconsciously glanced at Elizabeth. Feeling the strange gaze, Elizabeth flew into a rage. "What do you mean by that?" To get to the bottom of it, Elizabeth had Uncle Boss explain clearly. "What Dark Guild in the Demon Domain? Why are they capturing elves?" Uncle Boss's voice trembled. "It's said that the Dark Guild is conducting mysterious human experiments in an attempt to resurrect a former ruler of the world, Demon Queen Elizabeth." Yilo added, "The elves are one of their materials, so even I, with my unawakened bloodline, have become their target." This time, Ling didn't look at Elizabeth, but he thought to himself, "They've mentioned you by name, and you still say it has nothing to do with you." However, Elizabeth seemed to hear his inner thoughts and flew into a rage again. "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking." Ling was at a loss. I know everything. You've been here with me this whole time. Calm down." Unexpectedly, in the year the Demon Queen and the hero lived together, the outside world claimed that Demon Queen Elizabeth had been dead for 500 years. Elizabeth and the hero Lane were shocked. She had only been living there for a little over a year. Elizabeth wasn't concerned about the time discrepancy. "Does the rumor say how she died?" Yilfo answered truthfully. "According to historical records, Demon Queen Elizabeth was defeated and killed by the legendary hero." Uncle Boss continued. It's said that the battle lasted for a full month. In the end, the legendary hero, in order to protect the continent, perished along with the evil demon queen. Hearing this, Elizabeth's expression turned fierce. The two of them were instantly pulled into an illusion, a land covered in skulls and corpses, with a crimson moon and the smell of blood. Yahello thought it was another spiritual realm, but Uncle Boss said, "This is pure killing intent." Elizabeth retracted her killing intent, explaining that the rumor was false. The two of them coughed up blood and knelt, begging for forgiveness. Just then, Leping pointed to himself. "Because I am that legendary hero, and she is the demon queen Elizabeth you were talking about." The amount of information was so overwhelming that the two of them spurted out blood, 2.5 meters long. However, in Elizabeth's eyes, this scene transformed into something else. "The demon queen you speak of has been imprisoned here by me. Come and laugh at her." After imagining this, she flew into a rage again. "I'm not playing along anymore." With that, Elizabeth walked out of the house. She slammed the door with such force that a section of the wall cracked. Uncle Boss's voice trembled. "Mr. Leping, what do you plan to do with us now?" Lang didn't answer. He was shocked that after Elizabeth broke the time barrier, the time here had become chaotic. 500 years had passed outside. Night fell, Yahello whispered to her father. "So this is the truth from 500 years ago. The demon queen fell in love with the legendary hero and gave up the world to live in seclusion." Uncle Boss told his daughter not to speak nonsense. "Mr. Leping is probably deciding whether to spare us right now." Yafu disagreed. "If Mr. Lang wanted to kill us, why would he have saved us in the first place?" Uncle bossed in their eyes. "We are no different from ants. Whether they kill us or let us live depends entirely on their mood." As the two were talking, Leping walked into the room. "You're still awake. What are you two doing?" Hearing the sudden voice, Yahello was nearly scared to tears. Leping smiled and pulled out a deck of playing cards. "If you can't sleep, let's play cards." The three of them sat together and Leping explained the rules of the game. Yahello felt an ominous aura emanating from the cards and asked Leping what the game was called. Ling thought for a moment, realizing that the people of this world probably wouldn't understand the name Fight the Landlord, so he created a new name on the spot. This game is called Fight the Evil Dragon. The father and daughter were startled again, thinking this was surely a test from the great hero. Meanwhile, Elizabeth used an invisibility spell to hide in the air and secretly observe. Curious about what Leping was doing with them in the middle of the night, Lang said, "The two heroes have to work together to defeat the evil dragon. We can decide whether to be a hero or the evil dragon based on the cards we draw." However, in the father and daughter's vision, Leping's words were, "I'm starting to deal the cards. Think carefully before you choose." Uncle Boss told his daughter to take the cards. There was no room for hesitation now. His daughter nodded and reached for the deck, but the moment she touched the cards, the surrounding scenery suddenly changed, and the father and daughter were once again pulled into a spiritual realm. Yahello felt as though just picking up the cards had drained all her magical power, as if she were experiencing life and death. "I'm sorry," Uncle Boss comforted her. "It's okay. Leave the rest to me." It turned out that every card played was at the cost of his life force. However, the hero, Leping, was completely unaware of this. Unable to think of what card to play, he simply passed. But this put the shriveled, fingered Uncle Boss in a difficult position. He dejectedly asked Leping if he was sure he didn't want to play. Lang smiled and nodded, indicating he would pass. Uncle Boss guessed that Mr. Lang was deliberately letting him continue to play to drain his life force. In this situation, he had to play his cards as quickly as possible. "According to the rules, the combination I played should be called a flying dragon, right?" But as soon as he finished speaking, Uncle Boss's right leg shriveled. The bigger the card played, the greater the cost. Soon, a massive, menacing winged dragon was summoned above the illusory realm. The father and daughter had never seen such a scene and were so scared their eyes nearly popped out. A burst of energy gathered in the dragon's mouth, and a moment later, a blast of dragon's breath shot down, directly hitting the hero, Leping, turning the two of them to stone on the spot. After the attack, the dragon in the sky gradually dissipated. Uncle Boss was terrified. "I just offended the legendary hero. I'm dead for sure." However, Leping was completely unaware, focused on how to respond, but his hand couldn't beat the opponent's flying dragon. "You go ahead." Uncle Boss trembled all over. "I understand." This time he only dared to play a 3. Soon his right middle finger also shriveled. Seeing this, Yahello quickly passed her turn. When Lang saw it was a 3, he played a 10. The father and daughter, given the chance not to play, naturally passed. Leping then played a straight. The moment he played it, Towering waves suddenly rose in the realm before them, as if engulfing the father and daughter in a deep sea. After a brief moment of suffocation, the two of them gasped for air. Can't beat it. Seeing this, Ling continued to play. Next, a three-of-a-kind with a pair. This time the illusion was of two war horses pulling a chariot. Uncle Boss prepared to endure the chariot's impact. I can't beat it. But just then, Yelopu stood up. Wait, Uncle Boss quickly stopped her. That will cost you your life force. But Yelof had made up her mind. I can't always hide behind you. I want to protect you too, Dad. With that, she played a three-of-a-kind with a pair. Soon another chariot appeared in the realm and collided with Ling's. Uncle Boss looked at his daughter in terror. Yilfu, are you okay? But Yilfu's life force hadn't diminished at all, and she firmly stated that she was fine. Leping spoke up. Sometimes you have to break up your own hand to protect your teammate. That's right. What's most important is determination. Uncle Boss looked at his two withered fingers, seeming to understand. Was it because of her determination that my daughter is fine? Ling suddenly grinned mischievously. Determination is important, but unfortunately, it's too late. The father and daughter's faces turned pale. At that moment, even the invisible demon queen had a bad feeling. Lang smiled and played the strongest combination, the king bomb. A huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky of the realm, and two massive arms stretched out from the center of the crack. When the hands pulled the crack open, what appeared was a terrifying-looking clown. At that moment, even Elizabeth couldn't help but shed a cold sweat because Lang had summoned the Supreme Joker King, a 3-star demon god, the same level as Elizabeth. The Joker King first made a heart gesture to the father and daughter, then noticed the equally 3-star demon god, the demon queen nearby. What are you peeking at? Hiding over there? Then the Joker King materialized a dagger and lit the blade. Be careful or I'll kill you. Elizabeth couldn't take the insult. She barely managed to get into position, ready to fight. The father and daughter below were in deep despair, blaming themselves for angering Mr. Leping by playing their cards. Just then, Uncle Boss started coughing violently, blood spewing out as he felt his life force draining away. Lang thought Uncle Boss's injuries hadn't healed yet until he saw the cards on the ground. It turned out the uncle's hand could have won long ago. He had been letting him win all along. Lang didn't want to disturb others' rest and disappointedly shuffled all the cards. This casual action directly erased the illusion of the Supreme Joker King in the realm. Lang packed up the cards and bid the two farewell. That was fun. You two should get some rest. Sorry for bothering you so late. The two of them collapsed on the ground, still alive. The legendary hero is truly unpredictable. However, in Elizabeth's eyes, she believed that Luping's card game with these two was a pretense. His real intention was to send her a warning. The next morning, the two of them bid farewell to the hero and the demon queen. Early in the day, Luping tried to persuade them to stay. Are you sure you don't want to stay for a couple more days? The fruit I planted is almost ready for harvest. Uncle Boss didn't dare to linger. He quickly bowed to the two of them. Mr. Leping, your great kindness will never be forgotten by my daughter and me. Please rest assured, after we leave, we will not speak carelessly. Yila said, Mr. Lang, are you still giving us such a precious gift? Lang chuckled. It's just some ordinary barley tea. Don't mind it. Then he took Uncle Boss's hands in this. Please take it as a souvenir. Uncle, with that, he handed over the deck of cards from last night. Take it. My skills are too poor. It's not suitable for me. Just then, Elizabeth impatiently called out, Hey! Uncle Boss immediately noticed the Demon Queen's mouth shape. In less than a second, the two of them had vanished from sight. Elizabeth turned and walked back into the courtyard. Everything's back to normal. Go make me some food. On the other side, Uncle Boss and his daughter ran for an unknown distance before daring to stop. It turned out that after Ling left that night, Elizabeth had appeared. She had left a mark on each of their necks. I, Elizabeth, command you to leave this place immediately tomorrow, and not to reveal any information about me and the legendary hero being here. If you have the slightest thought of disobeying me, the curse mark on your necks will cause your heads to roll immediately. At that moment, the two of them guessed the truth of history. The demon queen who ruled the world and the legendary hero, Mr. Ling, had grown tired of the world's conflicts and did not want to be disturbed again. Yila suddenly noticed that this place looked familiar. It was where the monsters had been crushed by the Mammoth Lord. Meanwhile, Wang Kai was hiding behind them, secretly watching the two. It was afraid that the demon queen at home would fly into a rage, so it had no choice but to quickly send the two away. Woof woof, something seems to be approaching. Whatever, I don't want to get beaten by that nasty woman again. Then Wang Kai opened a portal and left. At that moment, Uncle Boss looked at the corpses on the ground and had a bad feeling. There will probably be more high-level monsters appearing nearby. We should leave as soon as possible. But as soon as he finished speaking, a large group of apostles from the Dark Guild descended from the sky, blocking their path. The leader was a grand apostle, a 2-star great demon spirit, while the others were the same as the ordinary apostles who had hunted them before. 3- and 4-star demon spirits. Unfortunately, Uncle Boss was only a 3-star grand magus, 2 major stages below his opponents, making him no match for them. To protect his daughter, Uncle Boss opened the deck and repelled the 3- and 4-star demon spirit-level apostles. Then he drew 4 4s from the deck. Card summon. Arrow God descends. Soon the illusion of an elven woman levitated above the 2 of them. Yilifa looked at the illusion and couldn't help but cry out, "Mom!" Meanwhile, the elven woman's illusion drew an elven long bow, shooting an arrow formed from natural power that tore through the void and pierced the heads of the apostles in the front. However, the leading 2-star great demon spirit didn't even bother to dodge, arrogantly catching the unstoppable arrow with one hand. But the moment he caught it, he knew he had misjudged. It was too late. The arrow, as if unstoppable, pierced his head. After it was over, the 4 playing cards returned to the deck, and the elven woman's illusion dissipated. Uncle Boss had used a 4-kind bomb and lost most of his stamina. But this time, he understood the hint the hero had given him. Determination was the key to unlocking the card's true power. From then on, a new profession was born on the continent of heroes, the card master. A week later, Ling was eating a watermelon he had grown in his courtyard. He marveled at how wonderful this magical world was. His fruit cross breeding method had been a great success, but there was no one to share it with. The joy of the harvest seemed to be missing something. He had thought he would be content just farming peacefully. But after having everything and then coming into contact with the outside world, his heart began to stir, wanting to see more. That's how it is, always wanting more, but I'm so weak. I'd better forget it. Just then, Elizabeth's appearance broke the peace. She sat on a chair with a glass of iced drink. "What are you thinking about? You look so down." Ling sighed. "I want to go out and see the world, but I'd better not. I'm too weak." Elizabeth chuckled. "Finally want to leave this place? Then come with me on a trip." Hearing that he would have the Demon Queen's protection, Leping's interest was immediately piqued. Elizabeth nodded. "Enough talk. Go change your clothes." In truth, she felt that the outside world was no match for this place. Then Leping tailored a set of casual clothes for Elizabeth. Elizabeth felt it suited her temperament. "I have to say, your cooking and tailoring skills are both excellent." With that, she snapped her fingers and summoned a portal to a town. "Let's go through here. We can reach the nearest town." Ling praised the convenience of the skill. In fact, he didn't know that his own electronic pet dog, Wang Kai, could also perform magic of this level. But before leaving, Lang asked, "Elizabeth, I have to ask you something. After we see the outside world, will you still come back with me? I don't mean anything by it. Of course, you can leave if you want." However, his words were misinterpreted. "If you want to run away after we go out, I can understand." Elizabeth grew angrier the more she thought about it. How could the one called the most powerful demon queen in history possibly run away? "Until I officially defeat you, I have no interest in anything else. Of course, I'll come back with you." Hearing this, Li Ping breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid of losing the Demon Queen's protection, as his fields could be trampled by nearby monsters at any moment. But Elizabeth set a condition as an apology for your disrespect just now. "You have to agree to one request of mine." Ling thought he had angered the Demon Queen and worriedly asked what the request was, but Elizabeth quickly moved in front of Ling. "After we get back, you have to make me a super Ursize pudding with the newly harvested fruit." Hearing this, Ling was momentarily stunned. So the reason the Demon Queen was staying was for a super Ursize pudding. Soon, both of them stepped through the portal, leaving Wang Kai barking alone in the courtyard. This was the world after being ruled by the Demon Queen for 500 years. When the legendary hero first came to a village, he found it unexpectedly prosperous. Demon Queen Elizabeth proudly declared, "The foundation I laid during my reign was solid. The world used to be divided by various forces with constant conflict. It was I who suppressed them with absolute power and established the great rule that all people are equal. So, the one who truly saved the world was me, not you, the so-called legendary hero." But when Elizabeth finished recounting her glorious deeds, she found that the hero, Leping, wasn't listening at all. "How dare you? You don't even care about my past achievements." At that moment, Leping was at a doll vendor's stall, admiring the well-stitched seams and asking if she had made them. The girl nodded. If you like them, brother, I can give you a discount. But as soon as she finished speaking, a pig-headed man deliberately kicked over the girl's dolls. Who gave you permission to set up a stall here? You wretched girl. Your church still owes our gang protection money, and you have the nerve to set up a stall in my territory. Seeing the ferocious pig-headed man, the orphans were scared to tears. Annie retorted, "You've never protected us. Why should we pay you protection money?" The pig-headed man laughed. "Idiot. Starting last month, this street belongs to our beast gang. If you want to survive here, you have to pay a monthly tribute." Annie was defiant. "Nonsense. The church belongs to the nun. When she gets back, you'll be in for it." The pig-headed man continued to curse. "You fool! You really don't get it, do you? Today I'm going to kick you orphans out and tear down that run-down church." Hearing this, Ling couldn't help but shout. The pig-headed man glanced at the human. "What the hell do you want?" Ling took 2 steps back, stammering. Elizabeth thought he was about to play games with these weak commoners again. Ling whispered, "Elizabeth, you should step in and stop this." Elizabeth turned her head away, thinking, "I don't share your lowbrow sense of humor." The pig-headed man was getting impatient. "I asked you what the hell you want." This put Li Ping in a tough spot. He hadn't expected the Demon Queen to not react. He had no choice but to resort to the most powerful modern tactic. "Everyone, look, this pig-headed man is bullying a little girl. Condemn him. Condemn him." However, moral condemnation was a joke in this era. The onlookers didn't react at all. The pig-headed man was amused by Li Ping's words. "You don't really think someone will stand up for you, do you? Everyone on this street knows our beast gang. You must be a foreigner from the south. The girl next to you has a nice figure, though." Ling said, "Everything can be discussed, but you really shouldn't mess with her." But the pig-headed man was determined to court death. He ordered his subordinates to beat up the man and take the woman back to the gang for some fun, completely unaware that his words had enraged the Demon Queen. The entire sky darkened, and the clouds swirled as if a demon king were descending, making all of creation tremble. The pig-headed man let go of Annie, his voice trembling. Why did the weather suddenly change? Ling told Elizabeth to calm down, otherwise she might accidentally destroy the entire town. "Calm down! Why would you get serious with ordinary people?" For Ling's sake, Elizabeth retracted her powerful aura. The sky instantly returned to its original state. The pig-headed man breathed a sigh of relief. Was that a passing shower? But Annie had seen everything. That sister's magical power is so strong. The legendary hero was being extorted for protection money by a pig, and he even asked how much it was. The pig-headed man's voice trembled slightly. A total of 10 gold coins for 2 months. The Demon Queen found it ridiculous. Just for a mere 10 gold coins. You all make such a fuss. How foolish. Just then, Lang leaned over. "Elizabeth, you must have a lot of gold coins, right?" Elizabeth nodded proudly. "The treasures I possess are countless." Hearing this, Lang immediately tried to borrow money from Elizabeth, saying he would sell the vegetables from his home to pay her back. Elizabeth looked at him as if he were an idiot. "You want to trade my food for those useless gold coins? No way. Besides, I didn't bring any with me when I came to find you." The pig-headed man at the side lost his patience. "Do you have it or not?" Ling was in a difficult position. "I don't have any gold coins. Can I use the local products in my bag to pay?" This nearly made the pig-headed man explode with anger. "Are you messing with me? Get them." But as soon as he finished speaking, a bag of gold coins flew towards him. Then a half-man, half-horse swordsman walked over. "Yetta, take the money and get out of here. Don't harass my friends anymore." The pig-headed man, having received the money, became much more restrained. So it's Swift Thunder, Shaji from the Sword Saint Guild. "I'll give you face, but you won't be so lucky next month." Ling quickly thanked the centaur. "I have some fruit here. If you don't mind, please take it." Shaji refused Ling's offer. It was nothing. "Don't mention it, but if you're willing, I'd like to ask you to partner with me on something." As he spoke, Shaji looked at Demon Queen Elizabeth. Annie quickly asked, "Partner, what can I do to help?" Shaji smiled. "Let's talk somewhere else. If this works out, I believe it can also solve your financial problems." The Demon Queen had no interest in earning gold coins. "I'm not interested. Ling, let's go." But Li Ping felt it was rude to refuse directly, especially since they had just been helped. They should at least go and see. The orphans, seeing this, asked Annie if she was going out. Annie told them to go back to the church and wait. She would be back soon. They all went to a smoky tavern filled with disgusting foot-picking brutes. "The man with you looks like a weakling. Why don't you come over to my side?" At that moment, Elizabeth's eyes glinted, and she shot a powerful, murderous glare at the crowd. If you want to die, say that again. The tavern instantly fell silent. No one dared to make another sound. Elizabeth turned and glared at Ling. It's all your fault for insisting on coming to this place and wasting my time. Ling naturally didn't dare to answer directly. We're here, Shaji said to the group this way. Please inside this private room. We won't be disturbed by outsiders. However, when Shaji opened the door, a group of young women, some in maid outfits and some with cat ears, rushed out, calling him master. Shaji said embarrassedly, I forgot to tell you, my wives are also here. Luping's jaw dropped. Wives. The half-man, half-horseman was introducing his wives. First was the shield warrior, Gasha, sitting next to him. Then there was the assassin, Loco, and the mage, Jelly. Finally, there was the archer with elven blood, Golia. But the demon queen had no time for his family matters. Stop wasting time. If you have something to say it quickly. We're leaving. Gasha was not pleased to hear this. Master, who is this woman? Her attitude is really annoying. Elizabeth said, This is my attitude. Do you have a problem with it? Loco also glared at her. How ridiculous. Calling herself Her Majesty. Is this woman out of her mind? Golia joined in. Look at the shape of her ears. She's probably just some low-class half-blood with a bit of elven blood. Who does she think she is? Acting all high and mighty in front of me. The demon queen couldn't take such insults just as she was about to destroy the place. The hero, Le Pen, saw the look on her face and quickly placed a pudding in front of her. The demon queen, who was on the verge of exploding, instantly changed her expression, casting aside all the verbal attacks to focus on the delicious pudding. Lang said to the group, Actually, we're from a very distant, nameless tribe traveling here. She's the princess of that tribe, Elizabeth, and I'm her servant, Lei Ping, Loco said. No wonder she acts so strangely. She's just a princess from a tribe that has never seen the world. Goliath continued to mock. And her name is Elizabeth. She must be from some backwater tribe in the demon domain that worships the demon queen. Ling shushed them. This is her first time out and there's a big cultural difference, so she's still adjusting. Only Shaji was suspicious. To be able to emit such terrifying magical power on the street, she couldn't possibly be just a princess from a remote tribe. He then invited Ling and the others to team up with them for a treasure dungeon. Hearing this, Ling immediately asked the nearby Annie, Do you know what a treasure dungeon is? Annie explained. A treasure dungeon is said to be a magical space created by powerful ancient beings to hide valuable items. They are usually very well hidden. Shaji nodded helplessly. It took me a lot of effort to get information about this treasure dungeon, but the condition to open the barrier is that we need a party of 8. Ling finally understood. Shaji had sought them out to fill the numbers. The nearby Annie counted the people and found that with herself. They were exactly 8. Do I have to go? Ling was confused by her dejected look. Didn't you just say treasure dungeons are very precious? Annie cried. Treasure dungeons are precious, but they are also usually extremely difficult. And I'm just a mere 4-star magic warrior. I'd be going to my death. Shaji told them not to worry. Once we're inside, we'll handle all the fighting. You just need to be there to make up the numbers. You won't be left out of the treasure. You'll probably get at least tens of thousands of gold coins. Hearing this, Annie's spirits lifted. Really? Then the church's financial problems can be solved. Lang asked for the demon queen's opinion. So we'll help them make up the numbers to repay the favor. Elizabeth said she didn't care and let Ling decide. Seeing no objections, Shaji nodded to his mage wife, Jelly. The woman took out a dazzlingly beautiful crystal ball, and Shaji placed his hand on it. This is a magic testing crystal ball. Just place your hand on it to measure the magic power within you. A 4-digit number then appeared on the crystal ball. Ling asked Annie what the numbers meant, and Annie explained that the 8769 corresponded to the demon spirit level. Shaji smiled. My magic level is 4-star demon spirit, and my wives are all 4 or 5. Since we're partnering up, we should know each other's strengths to coordinate well. Hearing this, Annie also placed her hand on the ball, and the crystal ball showed only 300. Jelly let out a laugh. Are you kidding me? Even when I first changed my class, my number was higher than that. Annie burst into tears. I'm so sorry. The nearby Leping was eager to try. He thought to himself, although I've been farming in the novice village all this time, and my magic level hasn't increased, as the legendary hero, my potential should be pretty high, right? However, when he placed his hand on the crystal ball, there was no dazzling light as usual. Instead, the magic power value displayed was 0. Lang was utterly embarrassed. How could he have any magic when all he did was farm? Loco looked at him with disdain. feeling he would be useless in the dungeon. Lang quickly took out some freshly harvested bananas to prove he was still useful. The three women complained in unison. He really is a country bumpkin from a remote region. You can keep those for yourself. Just then, Shaji came to the Demon Queen's side. Miss Elizabeth, please give it a try. Seeing that Elizabeth didn't react, Ling also urged her, just go along with it. Elizabeth snorted, thinking, this hero is truly sinister, making me play along with him to deceive these ignorant mortals. But for the sake of the delicious pudding, the Demon Queen still placed her hand on the crystal ball. Instantly, the magic-testing crystal ball emitted an unusually brilliant light, so bright that everyone present had to shut their eyes. Lang thought, this is bad. He had forgotten that revealing the Demon Queen's power would cause a huge commotion. While everyone's eyes were closed, he whispered, Elizabeth. Elizabeth glanced at Leping and instantly understood his meaning. It's been 500 years since I've been out. I'll play along with you. She then retracted almost all of her magic power. When the light faded, the crystal ball showed the number 8,768. Annie said, that's the same as the centaur's magic power, a demon spirit level. However, this small amount of magic startled Shaji's wives. This woman is also a 4-star demon spirit. Seeing that her identity hadn't been revealed, Ling breathed a sigh of relief. Shaji quickly gave a thumbs up as expected of a kingdom's princess. With your addition, our chances of success will be greatly increased. Then Annie asked Shaji, how do we get to that treasure dungeon? Hearing this, Shaji called out, Jelly. Jelly nodded and took out a scroll, waving it in the air. The teleportation scroll marked with the coordinates of the treasure dungeon opened. A huge teleportation array instantly appeared in the air, enveloping the 8 of them. The brilliant light faded, and the room was empty. On the other side, Lu Ping and the other 7 were teleported directly to the entrance of the treasure dungeon. Lu Ping marveled at the teleportation magic and began to take an interest in magic. However, Annie nearly fainted. It turned out that having low magic power could cause teleportation sickness. At that moment, Elizabeth sensed a familiar aura, but she didn't explain much, simply turning to Lang and telling him they were leaving the dungeon. Gasha flew into a rage. What's wrong with you, woman? You're backing out at the last minute. The nearby Golia and Jelly were also furious. Do you know how much crystal and magic power it took me to make that positioning scroll? If you don't go in, you're not leaving either. Elizabeth turned and glared at them. So you're threatening me? Just as a fight was about to break out, Leping stepped in front of the Demon Queen. Everyone, calm down. Let me say a few words. Then he clasped his hands and pleaded, since we're already here, Elizabeth, why don't you take me to see it? Just then, the nearby Annie interrupted. Sister Elizabeth, have you noticed? There seems to be a magical power inside the cave that's very similar to yours. Ling was confused. Magic power similar to Elizabeth's. What does that mean? At that moment, Shaji pushed aside Leping, whose magic power was 0. Excuse me, Miss Elizabeth. Please believe me, no matter what dangers we encounter inside, I will protect you. Please come in with me. However, his affectionate gaze didn't even get a glance from the Demon Queen. She walked right past him. Elizabeth agreed to Lane's earlier request. Since we're out, I'll go play with you. Aren't you going to keep up with that? The 2 of them walked towards the dungeon entrance, leaving Shaji grinding his teeth. The 8 of them then passed through the dungeon's barrier, which closed behind them. Lang wondered if this meant their way back was cut off. Elizabeth explained, in this kind of special magical space, unless you're stronger than the person who set up the barrier, you can't leave via teleportation magic. If they can't find the target and fulfill the barrier creator's conditions, none of them will be able to leave. Just then, Jelly blurted out, as long as Master is with us, we'll definitely get that thing. The nearby Gasha interrupted her. Don't talk nonsense. This piqued Annie's curiosity. Sister Galea, what is that thing you're talking about? Galea was evasive. Of course, it's golden treasure. Don't worry, you'll get your share. This was a fork in the road leading to the treasure. To investigate the situation in each cave, the mage Jelly used magic exploration, dispersing her magic power into each cave to search. A complex route map formed in her mind, and soon she would find the shortest path to the treasure. However, the nearby Demon Queen laughed at her ignorance. The magic exploration started normally, but the deeper it went, the more twisted and divided the paths became, like an endless series of forks, leaving Jelly gasping for breath. Shaji came over and asked, have you mapped out the entire maze? But Jelly was sweating profusely. She had extended her magic power to its limit, but still couldn't find the edge. Gasha was shocked. No way! Your magic power can extend for 3 kilometers. Golia was also surprised. Should I use my elven divination? Loco also made a suggestion. Let's split into groups. I can use my clone jutsu to provide support. Just then, Leping whispered, Elizabeth, you know the way, don't you? Elizabeth sneered. This maze is just a facade. If you try to explore it to the end, you'll never get out. Ling said, then why don't you help them? We can repay their favor sooner. Elizabeth flatly refused. I've changed my mind. I just want to watch them fend for themselves with you. However, amidst the discussion, Annie, with only 300 magic power, suddenly spoke up. Taking the third cave should lead us to our destination. This precise perception even surprised Demon Queen Elizabeth. Lang quickly asked Annie, how do you know? But Annie shook her head. Actually, I'm just guessing because that special magical power is coming from that direction. This answer displeased Jelly. Nonsense. I don't feel the magic power you're talking about. A mere 4-star magic warrior shouldn't be giving her opinions here. Annie didn't know how to explain and could only weakly apologize to Jelly. Jelly pointed to the last passage. Although I haven't reached the end, this side has the fewest monsters. We should go this way. Shaji asked his other 3 wives for their opinions. Loco still thought it was better to split into groups, while Gasha thought they should follow Jel's advice. Even if they were wrong, it was the safest route. Jelly patted her chest. That's right. Please trust Jelly. Shaji thought for a moment and decided they should all take the last cave together. But this time, Annie was surprisingly firm. We can take any of the others, but not the last one. She then used her doll magic to summon a rabbit doll and send it into the last cave in her place. However, as soon as the rabbit doll entered the cave, it was instantly crushed by a giant mouth from underground, leaving only its head rolling out of the mimic worm's attack range. This scene nearly scared Ling to death. What was that? Elizabeth explained. It's a parasitic magical beast commonly found inside giant magical creatures. At that moment, Loco couldn't help but mock. You said there were fewer monsters over there. Did you detect the corpses in its stomach? Just then, Elizabeth suddenly walked towards the third cave. You all can stay here and debate. Leping, let's go. Seeing the Demon Queen taking the lead, Leping followed without a second thought. But this made Annie feel responsible. Sister Elizabeth, I'm not sure that's the right way. Wait for me, Loco asked uncertainly. What now? Should I use my clone jutsu to follow them? Shachi thought about it and concluded that Elizabeth's background was not so simple. Having just witnessed the horror of the mimic worm, how could she make a choice so calmly without some confidence? He then ordered his 4 wives to follow. However, they still killed many low-level monsters along the way. Most of these monsters had no intelligence and attacked any intruders they saw. Gasha and the others were out of breath while the hero Leping hid behind Elizabeth, asking if it was safe yet, but in Elizabeth's eyes, she still believed the hero was just acting. Just then, Jelly took the opportunity to blame Annie. It's all your fault for bringing us here. There are monsters everywhere. Elizabeth couldn't stand it and replied for Annie. The more concentrated the magic power, the more monsters will gather. Does she have to teach you that? Jelly was furious. Of course, I know that, but you, a 4-star demon spirit, have the ability, but just stood by and watched. But Elizabeth said, didn't you say you would handle any monsters we encountered? Just then, Shaji stepped forward. Miss Elizabeth, let's just rest here for a bit. A little elven potion will help everyone recover. Hearing this, Lang's interest was piqued. He had never tried an elven potion and wondered what this otherworldly flavor would be like. Seeing his expectant look, Elizabeth sighed. Tired of fine grains and want to try some coarse ones? Are you? I can't do anything about you. So the 8 of them rested by a campfire. After drinking the elven potion, Jelly praised its effectiveness. Her magic and stamina had almost fully recovered. Just then, Galia took out a bottle of elven potion and deliberately came to Elizabeth to humiliate her. This is a special concoction of mine. Drinking it can boost all sorts of stats, but you're so powerful. You probably don't need it, right? Seeing this, Shaji quickly stopped his wife. Galia, be respectful. Galia nodded and reined in her arrogance. Sorry. Then she reluctantly tossed the elven potion over. The Demon Queen didn't even look, simply catching the potion and tossing it to the curious Leping. Leping, having never tried it, drank a large gulp, but the strong, grassy taste of the ingredients made him spit it out. Annie, do you want the rest? Annie said she didn't need it. I haven't used much magic power, so I don't need it. Seeing everyone's disdain, Galia cursed. Giving it to you idiots is a waste of good stuff. Elizabeth wouldn't tolerate her since no one's drinking it. Just pour it out. Galia's mouth twitched with anger. What do you mean by pouring out my elven potion? Elizabeth glanced at her and asked back, what do you think? Seeing the tense atmosphere, Ling opened his backpack. I have some fruit in my bag. Let's all have some. He then took out a regular banana and handed it to the centaur, Shaji. Shaji politely took the banana and gave one to each of his wives. Gasha and Loco both thanked him politely. Ling then took out an apple and handed it to Annie. The bananas are gone. Is an apple okay? Annie was moved to tears. Are you really giving it to me? Ling was surprised. It's just an apple. Is it worth crying over? Annie cried. Can I take it back for my younger brothers and sisters? They haven't had fresh fruit at the orphanage for a long time. Lu Ping nodded. Of course you can. When I get home, I'll pick some more for you. Enough for everyone. Jelly disdainfully threw her banana away. Who would want this rotten fruit? Golia even crushed her banana. Can this compare to my elven potion? Shaji said. Let's just have it for now. After we get the treasure and leave, I'll treat everyone to a big meal. Then Shaji, Loco, and Gasha ate the bananas. However, the moment they took their first bite, the three of them were simultaneously pulled into a spiritual realm. The scene was lush and vibrant, and their clothes had changed, making them look like peacocks in full display. Just then, a few strange grasshoppers appeared singing rock music, and the three of them started dancing the samba. At that moment, Loco's whole body trembled, and the crushed banana pulp sprayed all over her. But to outsiders, they just looked crazy. Seeing Shaji shaking his head like a fool, his other two wives were embarrassed. What are you doing? Meanwhile, Shaji finally woke up from the illusion. He coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Sorry, I lost my composure. Ling was stunned. Is this a performance? But Elizabeth was smug. I understand your intentions. Just then, Shaji was enveloped in a brilliant light, and his level instantly skyrocketed. The nearby Gasha and Loco felt the same, their magic ranks rapidly increasing. Ling thought they were performing. Is this a campfire performance? Amazing. The culture of this other world is so interesting to come out on a trip and see a centaur dance. It's really worth it, Elizabeth guessed. If they go any further, they'll die. So you're strengthening them here in advance to let the game continue. The centaur's magic power broke through 3 stages just by eating a banana, directly promoting him to a 3-star great demon spirit. The hero, Li Ping, said it was just an ordinary banana, the only difference being that it was produced from crossbred crops. The other two, hearing that eating bananas could raise their magic level, also quickly stuffed the bananas into their mouths. But the bananas had already started to rot and emitted a nauseating smell, making them impossible to eat. Annie believed this was a phenomenon recorded in magic books called synchronicity. This knowledge even impressed Demon Queen Elizabeth. The centaur Shaji was confused. What is synchronicity? Annie explained that it was mentioned in the nuns' magic books that special treasures usually only work under special conditions. But Jelly thought Annie was just pretending to know when pointed to Elizabeth asking why her banana hadn't rotted. Annie was speechless and chose to remain silent, but she guessed that Elizabeth's power was completely superior to the treasure, which was why the banana hadn't rotted. Elizabeth noticed Annie's strange gaze. Don't look at me with those eyes. Annie bowed her head in apology, retracting the crimson pupils of her eyes. Golia was not convinced, believing it was the cumulative effect of her elven potions. To verify the truth, Shaji wanted to get more fruit from Lang's backpack. Just as Lang was about to share more fruit, Elizabeth snatched it away. These are all for me to eat later. We've rested enough. Let's go. It's about time to finish this. With no other choice, Ling had to apologize to Shaji, promising to treat them properly when he got back. Shaji waved his hand, indicating it was no big deal. You go on ahead, my wives and I will pack up and catch up. So Leping and Annie followed Elizabeth deeper into the dungeon. However, after the 3 of them were far away, Loco whispered, should we go and grab that bag? Gasha also chimed in, yeah, maybe they're hiding something better. Shaji replied, no rush, it's not time yet. An ordinary person wouldn't carry such a precious treasure so casually, so she can't be just a princess from a remote tribe. Recently, one of the 4 major powers, the Kingdom of Aristotle, has been offering a high reward for information about their missing princess. If I'm not mistaken, that princess is right in front of me. If I can take this opportunity to make the princess my woman, I'll be able to climb up the ranks of the Kingdom of Aristotle. Then I'll get much more than just these magic fruits. Let me conquer you completely with this massive pillar of mine. However, in the eyes of his 4 wives, this LWD scene was one of charming pheromones. The 4 wives then simultaneously placed their hands on Shaji's horse rump, letting out coquettish cries of unsatisfied desire. Deep in the maze, pairs of crimson eyes were peeking. At that moment, Leping, who was walking ahead, sensed that the atmosphere was not right. Elizabeth, are we going the right way? Why does it feel like it's getting darker? Elizabeth said, didn't I tell you? The maze is just a facade. We're almost there. Meanwhile, at the top of the cave, tentacles burst through the rock. Annie tugged on Lang's sleeve. Something seems to be approaching us. But as soon as she finished speaking, a figure flashed past them like lightning. It was the centaur, Shaji, who had just finished with his 4 wives, their faces still flushed. Shaji struck a handsome pose. I was delayed a bit. I hope you can forgive me, Miss Elizabeth. As an apology, let me serve you for the rest of the journey. You can ride on my back. This was what Shaji considered the highest honor. But the demon queen didn't even give him a second glance. You want to be my mount? You're not qualified yet. Hearing this, Golia flew into a rage. You're really asking for it, aren't you? But before she could finish, a black shadow instantly decapitated her, leaving only a headless corpse to fall to the ground. A pillar of blood staining the entire area. This bloody scene stunned Shaji and his wives. Just then, a rock fell from above, catching Lang's attention. Giant fleas burst out from the rock wall, one of them even chewing on Golia's head. But this small snack was not enough to satisfy it, and the dragon flea then charged towards the group. However, its target this time was the most powerful demon queen in history, Elizabeth. A red light flashed in Elizabeth's eyes, and the terrifying dragon flea exploded on the spot. The nearby Annie hugged her head and cried repeatedly, muttering that she was going to die. And the legendary hero hugged the demon queen directly. Elizabeth, someone died. But in the demon queen's eyes, this had another interpretation. Testing human nature, letting the selfish and arrogant destroy themselves first. This is your first step. Meanwhile, the shield warrior Gasha raised her weapon to fight while the mage Jelly activated a magic shield to block the attack. However, this magic shield only protected the 4 of them, completely ignoring Lang and his 2 companions. Seeing this, Lang urgently asked, "Wait, what about us?" Shaji wanted to use this opportunity to test Elizabeth's strength. "I believe you'll find a way," Gasha snorted. "Who cares about you now? Our partnership ends here." Jelly also smiled smugly. "You can just stay outside as bait." But before she could finish, her head flew high into the air, sliced in half along with the shield. The remaining dragon fled, then swarmed in, fighting fiercely with Shaji and his 2 remaining companions. However, the death of his 2 wives did not bring sorrow to the centaur. He easily slayed these dragon fleas with his 4-star demon spirit strength. In contrast, the shield warrior Gasha struggled to cope, and Loco barely dodged the dragon fleas' attack, using her assassin skill, the art of assassination, to counter-kill it. Although all 3 of them had eaten Lang's banana to raise their magic rank, they would eventually be worn down if they continued to fight like this. Just then, Elizabeth asked, "Now that you've seen their true colors, do you still want to continue this adventure game with them?" Ling shook his head. "The favor has been repaid. Farming in the village is more suitable for me." The corner of Elizabeth's mouth lifted. "First, let them become arrogant, then determine if they are worthy of being saved. This is your second step." Then she said to Leping, "Then let's go." As she spoke, she took Ling's hand and walked forward. Meanwhile, a dragon flea launched a sneak attack on Annie from behind. A crimson light flashed in Annie's eyes, and a doll suddenly appeared, shattering the attacking dragon flea with a single punch. After it was over, it instantly reverted to a useless rabbit doll. But Annie seemed to have lost her memory, forgetting what had just happened. Just then, Elizabeth knocked on the air, and ripples spread outwards. She then whispered some strange incantations, and a white barrier appeared in the air in front of them. Soon, the outline of a magnificent gate gradually appeared. Lang finally understood. So the exit is a hidden giant gate. A moment later, the gate slowly opened, and Elizabeth walked in without hesitation. Lang patted Annie's shoulder. "Let's go," and 2 on the other side. Shaji, who was fighting a bloody battle, also discovered the treasure entrance and immediately shouted to his 2 remaining wives, "You 2 get on my back." Loco and Gasha immediately jumped onto Shaji's back and ran towards the gate. After the 3 of them entered the gate, they were greeted by a sea of gold, the air itself seeming to be filled with the scent of gold. At that moment, Loco and Gasha were stunned. It turned out that the endless maze outside was just an illusion. The real golden palace was hidden in this void. Lang and Annie were both excited. "Can we take some?" However, just then, Shaji pushed Leping aside. "Get out of the way." At that moment, he no longer needed to pretend because he had found the most precious treasure in the entire place, the Demon King's nectar. Lang was a bit annoyed. "We owe each other nothing now. I don't expect you to be grateful, but don't go too far." The 3 of them sneered. "What are you talking about? Of course we're grateful. As a reward, we'll give you a quick death." Just then, an eye suddenly opened among the pile of gold coins, and the entire golden palace began to shake violently. Then a huge claw was exposed to everyone's sight, menacingly warning the intruders. Soon the head of a golden dragon rose high into the air. The inexperienced hero was even surprised to see a dragon. In contrast, Annie, with only 300 magic power, saw something even more terrifying behind the dragon. Elizabeth had never expected that this little girl could see through the illusion. Meanwhile, the golden dragon guarding the treasure was enraged, its roar shaking people's eardrums. Gasha stared at the dragon nervously. "Master, your orders." Shaji drew his sword. "Let me charge up and kill it in one blow. You two buy me some time." The nearby Loco nodded in understanding. Then the assassin and the shield warrior advanced to engage the golden dragon. Loco scattered small paper dolls using the assassin's exclusive skill, Clone Jutsu, to summon clones identical to herself to attack the golden dragon. At that moment, Shaji was channeling all his magic power to charge up for his strongest move, Swift Thunder Flash. However, Loco's clones could not harm the golden dragon. Even the weak point-breaking effect granted by the art of assassination could not leave a single scratch on its scales. The shield warrior Gasha threw her shield into the air and used shield transformation, turning the shield into a thruster that charged at the golden dragon with ferocious power, pushing it back a small step. Gasha laughed triumphantly. It worked. "This is a new move I learned after being promoted to a 2-star demon spirit." However, less than 3 seconds later, the golden dragon suddenly swiped at Gasha with its claw, instantly crushing all her internal organs. Her limbs and head flattened beyond recognition. Now only Loco was left to buy time for Shaji. She threw all her paper dolls into the air and summoned a 1,000-strong army. Although they couldn't deal any effective damage, they were more than enough to distract the golden dragon. However, the dragon's gaze was still dismissive. It opened its wings and created a massive tornado, instantly shredding more than half of the clones. Countless gold coins were swept up by the tornado, shooting out like bullets. Even Ling and his 2 companions standing at the back were nearly hit. However, the legendary hero stood motionless in the face of the attack, which deeply impressed the demon queen, who was using a barrier to block the attack. "You're so calm, but for you, it's only natural." In fact, Leping was just slow to react, thinking he had almost died just now. However, the tornado continued to carry the surrounding gold coins, causing indiscriminate destruction. At that moment, a crimson light flashed in Annie's eyes, and she subconsciously activated her powerful doll magic, summoning a giant panda to stand in front of everyone, its thick body blocking the randomly ricocheting gold coins. On the other side, Shaji, who was charging up, was also hit by the indiscriminate attack of the gold coins. Loco immediately directed the nearby clones to block the coins for her master. However, her own body was not so lucky. She was directly pierced through the head by one of the golden dragon's coins. However, at that moment, Shaji had successfully finished charging up. He rushed towards the golden dragon like lightning, boasting that even a magic master level opponent couldn't withstand his 300% damage boost. However, when the smoke slowly cleared, his swift thunder flash had only left a shallow mark on the dragon's neck, while Shaji's sword had shattered on the spot. This made his face turn pale, and his eyes nearly popped out. Then the golden dragon swept its tail, sending him flying in front of everyone, plowing a deep trench in the ground for dozens of meters, leaving him with only a breath of life. At that moment, Lang stared at the dragon's figure nervously, stammering Elizabeth's name, but Elizabeth asked back, "The game is over. What do you plan to do next?" Lang replied, "You have to do something or we'll die." Elizabeth was stunned. "You noticed," Lang urged. "Isn't it obvious? You have to do something now." He was thinking that if she didn't do something, he would surely die. But Elizabeth misunderstood, thinking Leping wanted her to protect Annie. "Don't order me around in front of outsiders." However, at that moment, Annie started muttering to herself, "The real terror hasn't arrived yet. We may never get out of here." This time, Elizabeth held Annie down and looked at her closely. "It's the bloodline of Jamuji. Let me see what's going on with your magic power." A brilliant light flashed, and Elizabeth's magic power entered Annie's sea of consciousness. It turned out that Annie had lived with the orphans as a child, but one day, the apostles of the Dark Guild suddenly attacked. On the verge of death, she awakened the bloodline of Jamuji, and her powerful magic killed all the apostles, including the orphans. Because she couldn't control this terrifying magic power, she had no choice but to seal it along with that memory. Elizabeth sneered. "To alter your memories, you forcefully dispersed and suppressed your magic power. How foolish." Annie kept muttering. "It's all my fault, my younger brothers and sisters. I killed you." "I'm sorry," Elizabeth said. "You're a disgrace to the Jamuji clan. If you want to escape the prison of remorse, then stand up and fight." Annie held back her tears. This time at least, she had to protect her big brother Ling. Then her body levitated in the air, releasing the sealed magic power within her. She used her doll magic to summon again, but this time, it was different from before. She summoned 4 different types of dolls. However, the golden dragon was as dismissive as ever, swiping its sharp claws at the broken dolls. But when the claws dug into the panda's belly, it felt like hitting cotton. The dragon's strength suddenly vanished, and the panda controlled its claws. Then the rabbit doll launched forward, and countless iron fists materialized around it, continuously bombarding the golden dragon, causing it to let out a series of wails, instantly breaking through the dragon's iron heart scales. Looping was curious about what Elizabeth had just done. "Annie seems like a different person." Elizabeth said she had just made her accept reality. Meanwhile, the golden dragon's other claw swiped at the rabbit doll, slamming it to the ground. But the rabbit used the momentum to dig its ears into the ground and wrap its limbs around the dragon's claw, controlling it. Seeing both its claws restrained, the dragon began to gather its breath. At the same time, the green snake doll pounced, its massive tail coiling tightly around the golden dragon's body, causing it to let out a muffled poof and misfire. However, the power of a 4-star magic master was far more than that. The golden dragon flapped its wings, creating a golden storm that launched an indiscriminate attack on its surroundings. Just then, a hawk doll flew over, flapping its wings to create a powerful whirlwind that countered the storm. Ling was amazed. "Annie is so strong. What was that Jamuji bloodline you mentioned?" However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt something flash behind him and snatch his backpack. It was the twisted-faced Shaji laughing. "You let your guard down, didn't you?" Ling and Elizabeth never expected that he was still alive. Shaji took out the fruit Leping had grown. "Your trunk cards, these fruits of the realm, are mine now." With that, he devoured all the fruit in the backpack. Seeing this, Ling was speechless. Now is not the time to be eating. After about 3 seconds, Shaji felt an endless stream of magic power welling up inside him. His body suddenly grew in size, bursting his armor, and his entire shape changed with countless bone spurs growing from his back. "With this power, I no longer have to fear those old geysers from the Sword Saint Guild." However, the golden dragon was not pleased with this disgusting creature. It abandoned its other targets and locked onto him. A blast of golden dragon's breath shot out from dozens of meters away. But the enhanced Shaji simply flashed away, appearing next to the golden dragon's head and delivering a swift thunder kick that shattered the dragon's scales, sending its head crashing to the ground. After defeating the golden dragon, he came to the Demon King's nectar. "If I add this, maybe not even the Sword Saint himself would be my opponent." Then Shaji drank the entire cup of nectar in one gulp. His pupils then began to contract, and a painful expression appeared on his face. His disgusting body underwent another transformation, with demon horns and wings growing from his head and back. As expected of the Demon King's nectar, I am beginning to understand everything. Just then, Ling urged, "That guy is getting weirder and weirder. Elizabeth, you have to do something." But Annie told Leping not to worry. "I won't let him get near you, brother." Doll magic. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Shaji pierced through Annie's chest with lightning speed. Seeing this, Ling rushed over, ignoring everything else, and pressed on Annie's wound. "Hold on. Elizabeth will definitely save you." On the other side, Shaji came to Elizabeth. "I know you're hiding your true strength, but it doesn't matter. I'll give you 2 choices. Willingly become my woman and take me back to your kingdom to help me inherit everything, or be played with until you're a wreck, and then used as a bargaining chip to get what I want." At that moment, tears welled up in Lang's eyes. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Elizabeth, kill him!" Shaji glanced at Leping. When did a lowly servant like "You get the right to speak"? As he spoke, Shaji used his swift thunder kick, raising his 2 hoops to stomp on Ling. The floor was violently shattered and thick white smoke filled the air, but it was Shaji, not Ling, who was sent flying. Ling's clothes were still pristine without a single scratch, while Shaji's 4 hooves dug a deep trench in the ground for over 10 meters before he could steady himself. He thought, "What just happened?" It felt like all the damage from my kick was instantly reflected back at me. He then glanced at the motionless Elizabeth. Was it her? Elizabeth's heart was calm because even she couldn't damage the clothes Ling had personally sworn. She guessed that Leping was deliberately drawing fire to make him taste the bitter fruit of his own demise. In fact, Ling thought Elizabeth had protected him since he served the Demon Queen, and provided her with all sorts of delicious food. He would naturally receive some of her protection, so anyone who wanted to kill him was essentially smashing the Demon Queen's rice bowl. Elizabeth was his backer. Shaji, unaware of their identities and relationship, naturally couldn't understand the situation. Don't get too full of yourself. I was only using less than half of my strength just now. Faced with an excellent stallion like me, you could have chosen a better part to enjoy. But you insisted on taking my iron hooves head on. Then as you wish. This is my full strength attack. If you have the guts, try reflecting it again. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a huge object suddenly crashed into him from the left, slamming him hard onto the floor. Elizabeth asked the object coldly, "Are you finally awake?" Shaji, not understanding the situation, was already a bloody mess, stuck to the floor and constantly asking questions. Just then, a huge dragon claw vaguely descended from the void, followed by a dragon head as large as a mountain, too big to be seen in its entirety. Shaji was terrified. Is this the dragon's true form? Then what was it that I just killed? Meanwhile, the body of the fallen golden dragon gradually liquefied, eventually merging back with its true form's tail. Elizabeth thought to herself, using your tail as a cat teaser, that was a little trick we used to play. The one-star demon king, golden dragon guarding the treasure, was actually the little golden dragon Elizabeth had contracted with 500 years ago. Shachi couldn't believe it until he died. He had drunk the Demon King's nectar and possessed the power of a Demon King. So how could he lose? But his regret lasted less than 3 seconds before a huge dragon claw instantly crushed his body into a bloody pulp. A single dragon claw was as large as a mountain, and its full form was too big to be seen at a glance. At that moment, Looping was completely stunned. "Elizabeth, is this real?" But Elizabeth said, "You're right. This space doesn't actually exist." As soon as she finished speaking, the golden mountains around them dissipated like illusions, and the three of them were left floating in the void. Elizabeth knew that magic was Ling's weak point, but it seemed he still had it under control. Just then, the Golden Dragon King suddenly spoke a series of strange incantations to the group, as if it were some kind of password. The Demon Queen Elizabeth then spoke the second half, successfully completing the exchange. At that moment, crystal-clear tears fell from the Golden Dragon King's massive head, and with a poof, it transformed into its human form. "Master, it really is you. Amelia has finally waited for your return." Elizabeth said, "You've already been promoted to the Demon King rank, and you're still so childish. That's why I didn't want to come in and wake you up," Amelia cried. "No, no, Master. You left without a word for 500 years. Do you know how much I missed you? I was born from the heavens and the earth. It was you, Master, who found me in the lost secret realm and hatched me with your magic power. Then you gave me the name Amelia and personally taught and trained me. So Amelia made a vow in her heart to protect and serve you, Master. After I grew up, Amelia became your mount, carrying you to vanquish evil everywhere."
Finally, to put an end to the constant wars, you decided to rule the world. Watching you achieve your goal of ruling the world, Amelia was very happy. But after that, the smiles on your face became fewer and fewer. Is it because you became stronger, Master? Amelia could no longer help you unexpectedly. While Amelia was patrolling the world for you, Master, you drew the holy sword to find the legendary hero. And after you left, there was no news of you. At first, your reputation could still intimidate all parties. But after 10 years, the undercurrents began to stir, and the crime rate continued to rise. Even the Beastmen tribe began to have chieftains declare their separation from the tribe. Among them, the dwarf minister, Himmerdinger, suggested that everyone go to their respective territories to stabilize the situation and wait for your majesty's return. The elven minister, Tavara, asked Jamuji, "You've been with her majesty the longest. Could it be that her majesty really ran into trouble with that legendary hero?" The demon minister, Jamuji, thought it was impossible. "There's no one in this world who can threaten her majesty. I will personally find her majesty. You all can do as you please." The former human prince murmured, "I will also find her majesty in my own way." As a result, all her ministers went their separate ways, carving out their own territories. However, the little golden dragon, Amelia, was not interested in these things. In the end, she only took the half-empty glass of wine that Elizabeth had left behind. Amelia returned to the place where they had first met, believing that one day her master would return. She slept for 500 years, and the once barren land was now covered in flowers. "And so, I finally waited for your return, Master," Elizabeth said. "It seems that the long wait has made you put aside your playful nature and learn to meditate. This is the key step in your breakthrough to the Demon King rank. Amelia didn't care about any of that. Breakthroughs, Demon King ranks. She wanted none of it. She only hoped that her master would not leave her again. Just then, the hero Leping urged Elizabeth, "Let's not reminisce for now. We need to save Sister Annie." But as soon as he finished speaking, Annie suddenly opened her eyes. "Brother Ling, where are we?" Ling was both surprised and happy. "Are you okay?" Annie replied, "I'm fine, Brother Ling. The apple you gave me got crushed." In fact, it was the magic from the crushed apple that had saved Annie's life. Ling breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought it was something serious. As long as you're okay." Elizabeth once again imagined a different scenario. Everything is within his control. He had already set things up when he was handing out the bananas. Amelia looked in the direction her master was staring, her heart filled with jealousy. Why does master keep staring at that man? She doesn't even look at Amelia anymore. "Who is he?" Elizabeth said. "He's the legendary hero. I've been living at his place during my absence." Hearing this, Amelia grew even angrier. So it was this guy who took master away for 500 years, and now he wants to steal master's heart from Amelia. Old and new grudges. I'll settle them with you all at once. However, Leping had a smile on his face. "Hello, my name is Liang. It's nice to meet you." Amelia smirked, thinking, "I've already reached the Demon King rank. As long as I team up with Master, I can definitely kill this legendary hero." With this in mind, Amelia secretly materialized the Dragon King's claw and charged at Leping. "It's nice to meet you too." However, when the one-star Demon King's claw reached him, Ling easily caught it, simultaneously dispelling its magic. "No wonder you were so calm from the beginning." "Elizabeth, so Sister Amelia is your friend. She's so enthusiastic." At that moment, Amelia froze in place, thinking the attack that could have destroyed a town was just neutralized by his one hand. "But I've already been promoted to the Demon King rank. How terrifying is this legendary hero?" Elizabeth explained, "You could say that, but to be precise, Amelia is my mount." Hearing this, Leping immediately imagined a strange scene. He never thought that Sister Amelia could be ridden on her back. Just then, Demon Queen Elizabeth snapped her fingers, and the surrounding void realm began to collapse, eventually converging to form a teleportation channel that instantly transported the four of them back to Ling's idyllic home. "That's enough for today!" Amelia was deeply impressed by Elizabeth. A realm that only a Demon King-level being could create was swallowed up by her master without any effort. And Ling was also surprised to be back so quickly, thinking that as long as he clung to the Demon Queen's thigh, all the crises outside were just trifles. But Annie was not so lucky. The teleportation was too much for her, and she couldn't hold it in. Spitting out a mouthful of white foam, Elizabeth told Ling to take Annie inside to rest, as she had something to arrange for Amelia. After the two of them went inside, Amelia eerily asked, "Master, you said you had something to command Amelia to do. Please give me any task." "Amelia is eager to serve you," Elizabeth asked. "Have you heard of the Dark Guild and the Demon Domain?" Amelia replied, "Although I haven't been out for the past 500 years, I still have some impression of the news from the Demon Domain before I went into hibernation. I remember it was established by that human versus Malfoy. He was that human prince. Do you remember him, Master?" But the Demon Queen couldn't recall. "Malfoy. I think there was such a person." Amelia misunderstood, thinking her master wanted to find him for some task. "Is there anything Amelia can't do?" Elizabeth explained. "I've heard that this Dark Guild is carrying out mass killings under the pretext of resurrecting me. This greatly displeases me." Hearing this, Amelia was also furious. "Resurrecting Master? Isn't Master right here? This is a great disrespect to you, Master. What do you want Amelia to do?" A murderous glint flashed in Elizabeth's eyes. "Make them disappear from this world completely. But you are not to reveal any information about me or this place." Amelia nodded in understanding. Elizabeth continued, "After you've done this, you will be free. You can do whatever you want in the future." Amelia spread her wings, ready to take flight. "Please leave it to Amelia. Amelia will go and uproot that Dark Guild right now." But she thought to herself, "Master's freedom. Does she mean I can sneak into her bed every night like I did when I was a child?" With this in mind, Amelia set off for the Demon Domain to assassinate the Dark Guild. However, less than 3 seconds after taking off, a modern missile coming from an unknown source shot out, and right in front of Elizabeth hit Amelia in the air. Amelia felt the damage penetrate her skin. The opponent was a highly dangerous magical beast. At that moment, on the ground, Wang Kai's system detected that the target had not been shot down. It immediately raised the defense level to 2 and fired another missile. This time, Amelia used her skill, Dragon King's Wings, in advance and successfully blocked the missile. Although you're strong, you've chosen the wrong opponent. But her smugness lasted less than 3 seconds before she was terrified by the next scene. Countless missiles shot towards Amelia's direction. No matter how she dodged, she was ultimately tracked and hit by the missiles. At that moment, Amelia felt dizzy. She never expected that even after breaking through to the 1-star Demon King rank, she would be in such a sorry state, it couldn't hold on and was on the verge of death. However, Wang Kai still detected that the target was alive. Just as it was about to raise the defense level, it suddenly heard Demon Queen Elizabeth's curse. "That's one of my people. Let her leave." Wang Kai's voice trembled. Face added to whitelist. On the other side, Amelia was utterly dejected, complaining that this place was terrifying. Meanwhile, Ling personally made a glass of orange juice for Annie. "Here, drink this. It will clear your head." After thanking him, Annie quickly drank the entire glass. However, as she swallowed the last sip, she suddenly felt every pulp of fruit she had swallowed instantly burst, forming a fresh torrent of magical power that rushed through her entire nervous system, sweeping away all fatigue. This feeling is this super high holy magic. At that moment, Annie's mind was unusually clear, and she recalled some images. A nun with a ferocious face said to her, "I am you, and you are me. Stop suppressing your true self." These scattered images made Annie unable to help but shed tears. Just then, Elizabeth walked in. "It seems you remember everything. Your ancestor once made a vow before me that the Jamuji clan would forever be loyal to me. If your bloodline has been completely awakened, then the power of that vow will also descend upon you." As soon as she finished speaking, a scene of her ruling the continent of heroes 500 years ago appeared in Annie's eyes. She tried to ask for the truth. "Sister Elizabeth, are you that legendary demon queen?" Elizabeth smiled. "What that? I am the ruler of this world, Elizabeth." Just then Annie remembered that the ancient text recorded that the demon queen had perished along with the legendary hero. "Then Brother Ling you are?" Leping then answered truthfully, "Me? Although it's a bit embarrassing, I should be the legendary hero." At that moment, Annie seemed to understand. "I get it. The truth of history should be like this. Back then, you and Sister Elizabeth fought a final battle for the title of the strongest. But during the month-long fierce battle, you developed feelings for each other. In the end, because you fell in love, you gave up the so-called title of the strongest and have been living in seclusion for 500 years. However, Elizabeth did not refute this statement. Something like that. The nearby Ling became agitated. "Annie, don't talk nonsense. You'll offend Elizabeth." Elizabeth continued, "As a descendant of the super warrior bloodline of the demon race, you have fallen to such a state. You have truly disgraced the Jamuji clan." Lishing was incredulous. "You're saying Annie is a demon?" Facing the demon queen's criticism, Annie lowered her head in shame. In the demon race, there was a child named Jamuji, who awakened his bloodline. Whenever he used magic, his eyes would glow red, and his combat power would increase dramatically. However, as his strength grew, he would also become violent, finding satisfaction only in constant slaughter. In just a few years, this super demon warrior had caused chaos in the Demon Queen's northern territories, and even hundreds of elite soldiers were no exception. The series of slaughters made his ambitions swell, and he eventually stormed the Demon Queen's castle, attempting to challenge her position. But the result was that the Demon Queen defeated him and sealed his brutal side. From then on, this super demon warrior made a vow that his descendants would serve Demon Queen Elizabeth for generations. And Annie was a descendant of Jamuji. To suppress my urge to kill, I suppressed my memories and magic power. I don't know anything. From the day I can remember, I have been living in the church's orphanage. The nun and my younger brothers and sisters are my family. Elizabeth exposed her lie. Everyone in the orphanage was killed by you when you went berserk. You couldn't accept the reality and created this fantasy. But at the same time, Elizabeth was puzzled with Jamuji's strength. He definitely had the qualifications to become a regional overlord. How did his descend and end up like this? The nearby Leping found it strange. Didn't we see Annie's younger brothers and sisters at the market?" Hearing this, Elizabeth immediately created a portal. There's no point in continuing this conversation. You can see for yourself what her so-called younger brothers and sisters are. The portal connected to the orphanage, and what appeared were several dolls. Then, Elizabeth closed the portal. Do you understand now? Because you used most of your magic power to maintain the doll's bionic functions, your strength has remained at the magic warrior stage. You awakened your bloodline to protect your dearest ones from those dark apostles. And then you killed your dearest ones because you went berserk after awakening your bloodline. This is the truth you've been avoiding. These naked truds deeply touched every nerve in Annie, causing her head to ache and the violent magic power within her to be released uncontrollably. To calm her down, Elizabeth gently flicked Annie's forehead. The flick made her temporarily lose consciousness and fall safely into Ling's arms. I know you want to help her, but let me remind you, I've only made her faint for now. If she still can't control it and you let her go back, I'm afraid the entire town will be devastated. Ling knew the seriousness of the problem. I understand. Let me try. The next day, Ling took Annie back to the church. When Annie woke up, she confessed to Ling that she had remembered her past. It turns out there was no nun here. The murderer was me. Ling shook his head. You did it to protect your younger brothers and sisters. You're not a murderer. Annie sobbed. No, it's all my fault. I lost consciousness after I went berserk. Ling continued. The Dark Guild is the real culprit. Losing consciousness after your bloodline awakened was not your intention. You shouldn't keep blaming yourself, but Annie believed that killing her younger brothers and sisters was a fact that could never be changed. Ling continued to guide her. Like the dolls you made, the details are indeed good, but it's clear that you tied many dead knots because you were afraid of the cotton leaking out. This locks it in, but it also makes the doll lose its soul. Now I'll help you untie the dead knots and use them as materials again. She flew into a rage and the magic power within her went out of control. But just then, Ling murmured a sentence. Shakespeare once said, "Do not loiter under a tree, do not ponder in the rain, do not weep in the darkness." A simple sentence brought Annie into another spiritual realm. Just as the relentless rain and the sea were about to swallow her, a hand reached down through the clouds towards her. Look forward, don't look back. As long as you have the courage to face it and lift your head, you will find that the current haze is just a brief rainy season. Look forward. There is still a bright sky that will not make you feel lost. As the voice echoed, Annie was pulled out of the water by Leping's hand. Soon, the realm dissipated, and Annie's chaotic magic power was instantly calmed. Then, Leping handed her an angel doll he had personally sewn. This is a new doll I made for you, Annie. Its name is Raphael. I hope he can bring you healing. At that moment, Annie's tears flowed like heavy rain. This feeling, it's them, my younger brothers and sisters. I will protect the church here. Having untied Annie's long-standing knot, Ling breathed a sigh of relief. It was a good thing he had learned from the system before, in exchange for books on psychological treatment. However, to be safe, he would still need to make regular follow-up visits. On the other side, in the swamp of death in the demon domain, disgusting monsters were stirring, and the air was filled with the stench of decay. Amelia was furious upon her arrival. Unforgivable to turn my master's territory into such a mess. However, when she entered this area, she faintly heard greedy whispers. Whoever kills her first gets the right to dismember her. Fresh food has arrived. However, as soon as the monsters finished speaking, they were blasted into pieces by Amelia. Damn, VS. Did that guy turn my master's territory into a garbage dump? This time, no more monsters dared to approach. They all retreated and made way. But just then, the 5-star magic master, Keluzad, blocked Amelia's path. Who are you to come to the Dark Guild alone and cause trouble? I am Kelthusad, one of the 6 pillars of demons. Let me test your strength. Meanwhile, in the main hall of the Dark Guild, VS quickly gathered all the high-ranking members. A powerful character has come to our door. The OwnStar Magic Venerable Pharisag said Ghana's tribe was annihilated while invading the Sword Saint Guild. Could it be that the Sword Saint Guild is here for revenge? The 2-star Magic Master Ruth Bed said it's fine. Keluzad has already gone to greet her. The 1-star Magic Venerable Experiment 24 joked, "Do you want to go out and play with me?" The 4-star Magic Venerable said, "No matter who it is, even if it's the Sword Saint himself, if they dare to come here, they will never leave." The president of the Dark Guild, VS, smiled. I was just worrying about the lack of materials, and now they've come to me. This one-star Demon King level Golden Dragon King single-handedly stormed the Dark Guild, even beating one of the 6 pillars of demons, Keluzad, to a pulp just as he was about to use magic to flash back to the main hall and report. Amelia materialized a huge dragon claw and crushed him into a paste. Then a dense swarm of monsters flew over from a distance, so many that they couldn't see the end of them. They mistakenly thought that Keluzad had already severely wounded her and that they could easily defeat her with a human wave tactic. Only Amelia herself knew that in her eyes the so-called massive army was just a pile of trash. She then materialized a dragon head and used Dragon's Roar. The deafening roar echoed over a range of more than 100,000 kilometers, throwing all the low-level monsters into chaos. They all covered their heads and dared not take another step forward. Those who were too close were instantly shattered into a paste, turning into clumps of black liquid that fell from the sky as if a sinister black rain were falling. Then Amelia spread her wings, passed through the mist, and crashed directly into the Dark Guild's home base. But at that moment, she was blocked by a door. If you want to enter, you have to answer a question. The price for a wrong answer is your life. Listen carefully. The question is, if before the door-like monster could finish its question, Amelia had already kicked it, shattering it instantly. Soon, a large hole appeared in the wall, and Amelia slowly walked into the main hall. I finally found you, VS. You've become so ugly, VS chuckled. I'm too old now, Lady Amelia. It's been a long time.